Franco on the left. He's been playing the Pokemon TCG for a while. No super strong finishes, no top cuts as of recent, but is one match away and switched things up. Played Carnivore for most of this season.
Yeah, now on Gholdengo, and on the other side, Dragapult. One of the big matchups from the 2025 World Championships, Dragapult versus Gholdengo. Here we're still seeing it. Gholdengo with the Lunatone and Solrock engine, and Dragapult having the new Pokepad card. A couple new additions here and there, but the decks still play pretty similarly. The aggression from Gholdengo, really strong against Dragapult Dusknoir, but as we've seen time and time again on stream, Dragapult Dusknoir, if anything can come back from Dengo's aggression, it is Dragapult Dusknoir.
See the coin flip at who goes first or second. A huge advantage of this matchup is going second. You can either shut down your opponent with items on Dragapult's side, or that turn one Soul Rock Cosmic Beam is just so powerful.
Yeah, and knocking out that Budew, then if John goes into another Budew to not want to break that lock, can get knocked out again and get a high prize advantage. But looking at these prizes, nothing too bad on either side. 2 Luminous is a little annoying for John, and then the Churro and Boss could make it hard for Chris to find those when he needs them. But overall, nothing that should be too impactful like we've seen in some games this event.
I think things are panning out to be a good set between both of these players. So much on the stake, so much on the line. Who will advance into our top cut? Time will tell, ladies and gentlemen. But who start here for John, as Chris does start and go first with this Gimmighoul. Does have a pair of those Fighting Gong in the hand.
Yeah, has a lot of Pokemon search. I believe I saw a Nest Ball, Artisan, and 2 Fighting Gongs, so we'll be able to get that Lunatone and Solrock online, use a Lunar Cycle if he wants, and potentially get an energy on that Solrock to prep for Cosmic Beam onto this Budew next turn. And a really strong opening from Chris here. Really what you want to see as Gholdengo going first, you want to have those basic search so you don't get scammed by an early Itchy Pollen to shut you out of those.
So Fighting Gong used first. Here's the Nest Ball. Lunatone comes down into play. So that powerful duo, both the draw power and the early aggression that this pair provides can just be so overwhelming.
And one of those interesting techs that you see in Chris's hand is the Mega Lopunny EX. Could get a really efficient knockout on something like a Fezandipity, a Latias, one of those frail EX Pokemon that Poltnor sometimes has to bench. Could come up, but may not see it this game. It is a 3-prize liability, but it's just an efficient attack at the end of the day. And here, grabbing the Fighting Energy, getting ready to Lunar Cycle, see some more cards. Already has a Gholdengo in hand for the next turn. Really great opening hand from Chris.
See these 3 cards, what they do find. Does find Pokepad, and that's immediately going to be slammed down to find another Gimmighoul.
Having all this Pokemon search already means that Chris isn't going to have to use this Artisan if he doesn't want, and doesn't have to give John that free Pokemon search at any point.
Yeah, immediately actually just going to get rid of this Mega Lopunny, so not valuing it here in this set, it seems.
And interestingly enough, we've seen a lot of different ace specs in Gholdengo, from Energy Search Pro to Prime Catcher to Secret Box, but here Chris is playing the Legacy Energy, a build that did win the Curitiba Regional Championships down in Brazil a couple weeks ago. So we'll see how it pans out. It's a really interesting ace spec choice, really disrupting your opponent's prize map in a lot of games, and helps Gholdengo kind of keep that prize advantage. The deck just takes a lot of prizes aggressively, so when your opponent's able to go 2-2-2 prize map, you want to disrupt that with the Legacy Energy, kind of similar to what Cerulege does, but you're a little bit stronger of a deck and a bit faster. Now passes the turn to John.
A solid turn 1 here for Chris. We'll see what John can put together. Does start off with a Pokepad, and that Budew already in the active spot means Itchy Pollen is online to be used. Chris, like you mentioned, already played a lot of those powerful item cards, so can John maybe disrupt the hand with an Iono? Can he get a whole bunch of Dreepy into play? Still questions to be answered on this first turn.
John here just prize checking, but looks like he's also going to have a strong turn with this Pokepad and a Lily's Determination already in hand to see 8 new cards. Looking for some energies to attach to Dreepy, a Buddy Poffin to get a Duskull and another Dreepy, and just filling that board with basics and prepping to get stage 1s for the following turns. Maybe even benching a second Budew, anticipating this one to get knocked out.
We'll of course do that first deck search, just organizing the deck, seeing what Pokemon are available. We'll take note one of those Dusclops are in the prize cards as well as that Tricloak. There's a couple Pokemon in the hand currently. Latias, Hawlucha, but I'm actually not sure there's a supporter card in the hand.
I thought I saw a Lily's, but may have been something else. May also consider benching that Latias, because if this Budew gets knocked out, you're going to want to go back into the Itchy Pollen. So you don't want to retreat the energy, so something like the Latias or a second Budew could be the way to get another Itchy Pollen. The scare of benching a second Budew, however, is that if Chris has a boss's orders, could potentially knock out one of the Dreepies, and then you just have 2 Budews on your board. And here benches that Latias. And, yep, Lily's Determination, 8 new cards.
We'll just go back into the deck with Lily's Determination. 8 cards, already essentially hitting the benchmark for this turn, which is get a Dreepy down and Itchy Pollen. We'll see if more cards like Buddy Buddy Poffin can be found.
And always prepping for those future turns, trying to find some stage ones as well. Use some recon directives, some energies. Gholdengo can take a lot of aggressive knockouts, so having as many energies in play to allow you to use as many phantom dives throughout a game is really, really important for this matchup.
8 cards at the top of the deck. Let's find the Buddy Buddy Poffin, but no energy cards here. Could be a sign of those 2 Luminous energy being prized, a lot less in the deck.
Some Dragapult Dusknoir lists have been going down to 7 energy total, including that Neo Upper. Not sure what John is playing. Looks like it is only 7 energies, so only 5 in deck. Can be difficult to find them. Looking to get that Duskull, pressure that Curse Blast ability, such a strong ability, forcing your opponent down prizes, giving you extra damage, really activating Countercatcher, Iono, making Iono more threatening, and letting you hit these big knockouts on 260 HP Pokemon like Gholdengo. This Itchy Pollen 10 plus a Curse Blast from Dusclops 50 means 200 from a Phantom Dive can knock out a Gholdengo in the future.
So solid turns for both of these competitors. Going into turn number 2, we'll have to see how they can capitalize off of this. Bunch of Pokemon down, Itchy Pollen being used, but Chris is sitting on a really solid hand to respond to this. Guaranteed KO, Gholdengo already in the active spot.
Now Lunatone set up to draw so many cards. Has the Artisan if he wants another Gimme Gold. Draws another Gholdengo.
Wow.
Amazing turn 2 lined up here for Chris.
And just uses that and actually finds
the Lily's.
Lily's Determination. I'm not sure that card's even necessarily needed in this spot. We'll see this Metal Energy get put onto this bench Gholdengo. We haven't seen that coin bonus be used just yet. Considering using this Lunar Cycle as well, you've always got to be careful about how many energies you're putting in the discard pile in this matchup.
Yeah, your opponent can sometimes just Itchy Pollen you out of the game, but here doesn't even use another coin bonus, just takes the knockout here, limiting the hand size to prevent Iono from being too effective. Oh, signal to the Gholdengo, so maybe just forgot to use that one.
Sure.
But as you mentioned, holding off on that Lunar Cycle, just trying to keep as many energies in the deck as possible and playing for the future. But John already having 2 stage 1s and deciding if he wants to play this Lily's Determination to try to set up further. I think had a Night Stretcher.
Yeah, does need to find a second Dracloak this turn, as there is a boss's orders pressure to KO the only one in play. But it's going to see plenty of cards. 8 from the deck, and then another 2 from the top of the deck to choose one of those. So still plenty of options in order to find something. We'll see what these cards do warrant. And looking at this here, it's actually not super strong. There is an Ultra Ball in those last couple of cards, so we'll be able to find that Dracloak necessarily.
And finds a Night Stretcher to get the Budew back. If he doesn't find it out to the Budew off this Recon Directive, I think he may need to use this Ultra Ball to find that Dracloak. Could also get the Pheasantipity, draw 3 more cards if he wants to keep drawing those cards throughout the game. But getting that guaranteed Dracloak seems really important here because Chris does have the boss and 2 energies, which just gets so far ahead.
So there it is, Dracloak number 2 coming into the hand. Recon Directive online, and did find that energy attachment notably, so we'll not have to rely off of the Neo Upper Energy as well as a Night Stretcher. So now the question becomes, how valuable is using Itchy Pollen this turn, Piper?
It does make it hard for Chris to find those energies. Can't use Earthen Vessel, Fighting Gong, Superior Energy Retrieval, any of these options. But we know that Chris has the energies in hand to boss knock out a Dracloak, but John doesn't know that and really just wants to limit it here. Gets the Buddy Buddy Poffin to get potentially another Dreepy or another Duskull and that Budew, which he has the Latios to retreat into and Itchy Pollen this turn.
Just debating which 2 Pokemon to put into play.
Yeah, it can be really scary to get that second Duskull, as when your opponent's taking 2 prizes off your Budew, if you use 2 Curse Blasts, that puts your opponent back onto even prizes, meaning they only have to knock out 1 Dragapult EX this game to win, and you really want to force them through at least 2.
So will be Dreepy and Budew coming into play. Both hitting the board. We'll see Itchy Pollen again, doing 0 damage thanks to Gholdengo EX's resistance. Energy dropped down onto Dracloak. Chris already has this knockout lined up. Can now use these coin bonus abilities to draw even more cards to build up the hand. It's really interesting how this deck is built. There's a lot of copies of Lily's Determination in this deck, it seems. You usually just see this deck originally built to use a bunch of Arvins, other pieces like Cypher Maniacs, Code Breaking, but it's really a high reliance here off of these sort of off supporter cards, the Lily, the Hilda, things like that. We are going to just see Boss's Orders take down this Dracloak, or excuse me, this Duskclops. So Chris going down to 4 prize cards, and now that Cursed Blast pressure is off the board.
Cursed Blast is super strong at making comebacks, and when in doubt, my personal mantra is just knock out the Dusclops.
Blast it out.
When your opponent has multiple Dracloaks, it's kind of difficult to want to knock out the one with the energy because they all play Neo Upper Energy now, so they can get a Dragapult out of nowhere anyway. So knocking out that Cursed Blast ability really limits their options on the turn, because now Chris's Dengo is safe without that Cursed Blast threat.
See the first Recon Directive be used. Does already have Dragapult EX in hand. It will get evolved up, so Dragapult EX has hit the board. There is a Jamming Tower in hand. No stadiums have been used yet. And is holding on to that Iono, and I think it's time to apply some disruptive pressure. Iono plus Phantom Dive, not a bad combo in the TCG.
Interestingly, Chris's build, as you mentioned, has a lot of weird supporters. No Arvins and only 1 Air Balloon, so this Jamming Tower not going to be as strong as John may hope, as the deck is not reliant on that Air Balloon to move stuff like the Genesect EX.
No energy card in this hand for John yet. It's going to be relying off this Recon Directive. And I think we may have to go fishing for another Dracloak to try and hit this last energy.
Really?
Oh, has it in hand. Okay, so here we go. This is a big Recon Directive. If there's no energy, there's no Phantom Dive on this board.
And John would just have to Itchy Pollen again. Chris just needs 1 energy to knock out the Budew. And looking at how slowly he used that Recon, I don't know if he found that energy. Just a counter catcher. I guess you can counter catcher the Lunatone and force Chris to have another energy.
Or an Air Balloon, right? No Air Balloons played yet.
Yeah, but with the Jamming Tower in play, would also need a Stadium Bump. So just forcing those extra pieces to try to prevent Chris from taking a prize so John can get back into this game. Really showing how Chris's build of Gholdengo, just focused on that consistency and setting up, works really well against Dragapult, which tries to slow you down as much as possible and come back from there. Yeah, counter catcher up that Lunatone, and just an Itchy Pollen. We'll see what Chris is able to put together this turn. Has 2 coin bonuses.
And finds the Hilda. That's guaranteed energy. Just needs to find 1 more to KO this Budew now.
I can also get a Fighting Energy and Lunar Cycle to try to draw 2 energies. Here using the first coin bonus. Considering that Hilda or the second coin bonus, it does feel a little awkward to use the coin bonus for 1 energy, or for 1 card, but then you know whether or not you have the energy. But you could also Hilda, retreat the Lunatone, and coin bonus for 2, or Lunar Cycle and see 3 cards. A lot of options here for Chris, really showing how important understanding sequencing is for Gholdengo, just understanding what order to play your cards so that you can maximize your odds of drawing the combination you need.
We'll check and see how many energy are left in the deck. There's 3 fighting in the discard pile, 1 in the prizes, 4 fighting in the discard pile, 1 in the prizes, and a total of 9 in the deck. So we'll do some quick math here. It does seem like there are 3 energy remaining, or excuse me, 4 energy remaining here. Since there is that 1 prize, is actually going to find the legacy energy here. So very interesting decision on how he wants to go about this.
Showing off the legacy energy to John means that now he doesn't have to play around Prime Catcher or Secret Box combinations. And a lot of free info for John here. We'll see what Chris opts to do.
Maybe just considering taking it slow yet again. Using this coin bonus ability, drawing another card, but you really can't retreat that energy, and you can't use Make It Rain to discard that energy either.
It feels bad to retreat that energy, but you can always do it. And then you lose the ace spec, but maybe it's fine. Maybe looking to attach it to the Gimme Ghoul this turn. Not a lot going on in Chris's hand, just passing to John. It feels bad to pass after such a strong start, but you are at 4 prizes. You can just knock out 2 Dragapults to end the game, but if you had knocked out this Budew, it would have made it hard for John to justify using the Cursed Blast, putting Chris to 2 prizes. Just knocking out this Latios or Dragapult would win Chris the game. And here, another Iono, showing just how Dragapult, turn after turn, uses Iono, disrupts the hand, and takes key knockouts. But Chris here has some good options in the hand. John still looking for that Psychic Energy, has 2 Luminous prized.
Did find the Neo Upper, so at worst, it can get attached to another Dracloak that could evolve into Dragapult. Does find the Luminous Energy, though, so big time fight here for John.
Still has 1 Recon Directive left to find some more cards. Counter Catcher, Dusclops, a lot of strong cards.
There's that Night Stretcher, which can find the Dusclops.
Yeah, could potentially knock out the Solrock and the Lunatone this turn, taking away a big source of Chris's draw. Chris does have another Solrock prize, but is playing 3 Solrocks in this list. so would be able to still establish another Solrock Lunatone without any recovery.
Yeah, and the ordering is kind of weird. You just put your opponent to 4 cards. They would then get 5 cards because of using that Cursed Blast. It's still going to be played regardless, so Dusclops does come back into play. Question now becomes, do you use this ability? And then also, where do you want to put damage counters from Phantom Dive?
John does have the Dusknoir for next turn, so may opt to keep the Dusclops in play, but it could also get bossed by Chris again. We saw it happen last turn, but that would also put him on odd prizes. So a lot of things to consider here for both players.
So the first Phantom Dive of the game being used here for John.
Yeah, turn later than he would have liked. Not able to find a Psychic Energy or Luminous last turn, but
see how many damage counters get to be placed on the Solrock. Is it just a full 6?
May also start to soften up those Gholdengos. Yep, 6 onto the other Gholdengo so that it gets knocked out from Phantom Dive. Thinking about it a little bit, maybe considering stuff like the Blood Moon Ursaluna, only needing 20 damage on those Gholdengos to knock it out. Here, Chris just promotes the Gholdengo, has Pheasantipity in hand, and draws a Superior Energy Retrieval. It seems like he's going to be able to put together a knockout with just a few more pieces needed.
That's Lily's determination as well, but just going to fully invest into using this here. Finds Boss's Order's Nest Ball. That can find the other Lunatone out of the deck.
A lot of draw here from Gholdengo, and it just shows how the deck cycles so quickly, and you get to these points where it feels like Gholdengo can never whiff what it needs to win the game. With such few cards in deck, having Pheasantipity, flip the script draw, Lunar Cycle draw, and then multiple coin bonuses. Chris could even get a third Gholdengo this turn if he draws into it.
Yeah, and it's just so scary with that Badoo being on the board, since that could just be an easy last prize card for Chris if that Dusknoir gets popped.
John here may have to go in just having this Dusclops in play, not able to use it for a while, maybe only to close out the game. Has the Neo Upper though, luckily.
Finds the second Superior Energy Retrieval. That will pretty much lock up a guaranteed KO onto Dragapult EX this turn.
Depends if there's enough energies in the discard pile. There may only be 4 there right now, and with only 2 in hand, that's only 300 damage. May need to find 1 more, but does have the Boss's Orders onto the Latios as a worst case scenario.
Can actually retreat off this Gholdengo, and that would guarantee it potentially, but instead just finds the Earthen Vessel, and now can only just use one of these Superior Energy Retrievals to take a KO.
Great draw from Chris here, finding all those energies. Retreating the active Gholdengo would mean you don't have that Metal Energy on board, and you're putting that Gholdengo with 6 damage counters in the active, so really just opening the ability to whiff off an Iono later. And here, doesn't have 2 energies in deck, only able to grab 1, but will still have plenty to knock out. Has to be really careful of John's Badoo, though, and making sure that it cannot win the game through Itchy Pollen, locking those energies in the discard pile. We saw it happen yesterday where Itchy Pollen just locks those resources into the discard pile. It's always something to be wary of, especially with Gholdengo, where the Badoo does no damage to your Gholdengo, and you can just get decked out.
All right, so here we go. Superior Energy Retrieval brings back 4 energy. Now, how many are in the hand right now? There are enough to take a KO. 7 energy needed, and 7 energy are found. Make it rain, 7 energy KO onto Dragapult EX. Chris Franco now down to just 2 prize cards remaining, and importantly does find that fighting energy off the prizes.
And what will John do to respond? He has the Neo Upper Energy for the Dragapult. He may not have the Dragapult yet though, but has these Recon Directives, the ability to use Pheasantipity, has the potential for a Curse Blast if he doesn't find a Countercatcher on whatever he wants to use. May try to Countercatcher that Pheasantipity, only doing 200 and spread some damage, but here evolves into Dusknoir. Puts that Neo Upper Energy.
I'd love to take a look at the discard pile for Chris and see how many energy cards he's down. As if there's a way to just use Itchy Pollen 2 times. If there's less than 2 energy remaining, that would actually be a specific way to be able to win the game out. It looks like there's 8 energy in the discard pile, 2 metal energy in the deck. So if John can actually sniff this out, I believe there's a way to just use Itchy Pollen twice and win this game.
At the same time, that Solrock can just attack for one of those, that legacy energy that still hasn't been played yet, and having Professor Turo Scenario and Air Balloon to move the Gholdengos can just knock out the 2 Badoos. So John, I don't think can risk that play, but maybe
the energy being shown may actually give him the confidence to avoid doing that. It's a bit of an odd inclusion, it feels sometimes in this deck.
The extra energy, a lot of lists are only playing 11 energies, but Chris here with 12, something that you have to keep thinking about how many energies your opponent has. Can you Itchy Pollen? Just goes for a Curse Blast on the second Lunatone, trying to limit the draw and putting John back on even prizes. Maybe going to knock out this Lunatone and potentially the Pheasantipity or a Gholdengo. But here, just in Iono, looking for Countercatcher to get rid of some more of that draw and limit what Chris is able to put together on the next
Still
turn.
needs to find Dragapult EX. Is only going to see 4 cards here.
Uh,
Does not find Dragapult.
Has the counter catcher though, and 2 recon directives can find Night Stretcher, Ultra Ball, Dragapult. There's an Ultra Ball. I think we saw another Dragapult in deck earlier. A lot of lists are playing 3 now. Sometimes they play 2 though. So always something to watch out for.
Does find Night Stretcher as well. Just going to take the Dragapult EX instead.
I can use that Ultra Ball to get Fezandipity now for the next turns, or just save those resources in the hand.
And now John is threatening game on the following turn with that Fezandipity being down. Can use this Phantom Dive and just place a single damage counter on that to threaten another KO. So now all of a sudden, Chris Franco on a 1-turn clock to win this game. And really the big question is, was there an opportunity to use Legacy Energy somewhere along the lines to prevent an extra prize card from being taken?
The trouble with using Legacy Energy is if you put on the Dengo on the bench, John could use Lucha and Gus the Fezandipity and knock that out this turn, which I think he was considering eyeing up. I saw him moving some cards to the front with Ultra Ball, but here just going for that Gholdengo. But also Chris at 1 prize and that Budu on board means he's just an energy and a boss's orders away. And with 4 boss, only 1 being played thus far, lot of outs to win.
Yeah, would need the Soul Rock too. Sometimes you kind of forget about that effect. The Soul Rock does need the Lunatone in play to attack.
Well, you could also make it rain for 1, 50 damage, knocking out that Budu. So a lot of ways for Chris to end up winning this turn, but also not much draw with John taking out one of the Gholdengos and that Lunatone this turn and putting him to only 1 card. Gets the Hawlucha in the hand, maybe considering knocking out the Gimme Ghoul, really just limiting the draw for Chris, meaning only 1 Gholdengo, 1 Flip the Script, and maybe 1 Lunar Cycle.
This is coming down to the wire, ladies and gentlemen. So Hawlucha grabbed. We'll have to see if it does come into play with the Flying Entry ability, and it does. 10 damage on the Gimme Ghoul. 10 damage on what I assume will be the Fezandipity EX.
Have to consider, you can boss the Fezandipity, but you could also put it on the Gholdengo EX and use Blood Moon or Ursaluna later to just knock it out in 1 attack. So it's just putting yourself on, do you think you'll have boss on the next turn? And I think John's last card may be a boss, so yep, just putting it on the Fezandipity.
So here we go, Phantom Dive taking a double KO. Chris Franco, 1 card in hand and a dream. Can he put together a KO on this active or find boss's orders and win? What's the 1 card for turn? It is Legacy Energy.
Art is on a great draw here. No Lunatones in deck to get out, but it shuffles the deck, and I believe there is a Superior and 2 boss's orders at the bottom. Yeah. You can also take a card out of the deck to try to maximize your odds of drawing what you need. But Chris's deck here, actually a lot of cards in it, especially for Gholdengo. Just missed some Lunar Cycles on some turns, getting guaranteed knockouts instead, and was not able to put it together to get to that thin deck that Gholdengo always wants.
Yeah, and a clarification, you cannot discard Legacy Energy from your hand with Make It Rain, so Pris still needs to find a basic energy with this boss's orders.
And John here smartly going to 1 prize means that even with the Legacy Energy on the Fezandipity, John will still be able to win. So seeing that Legacy Energy earlier and playing around it now, really heads up play from John.
So we'll find Gimme Ghoul from this Artisan. We've got a big 5-card draw coming up. If Chris can find that last fighting energy or a superior energy retrieval plus boss's orders or some sort of double superior energy retrieval combo, he will win the game. So here we go. Big 2 cards. Finds boss's orders, and that's going to guarantee it here. Boss's orders, superior energy retrieval, KO on Budu, and John Ang is going to fall after such a close game number 1.
We keep seeing these perfect 2 cards being drawn last round, and now this round, Coin Monistor 2 into Boss Superior, just giving Chris the game 1. After such a strong start, then kind of falling off in the mid-game, having to pass with that Lunatone active, and then John taking full advantage of it. It really came down to John whiffing that energy that 1 turn. If he had attacked with Phantom Dive a turn earlier, could have had a bit more damage on Chris's board and taken a bit more advantage of any whiffed turns. Chris was still able to close it out only needing one more prize after that Curse Blast.
Just perfect card draw right in the window. No sweat off Serendipity. Rips the boss's orders, rips the Superior Energy Retrieval. These players are on fire today when it comes to drawing on the stream.
So many cards to draw, especially with Gholdengo. As you mentioned, with the script, coin bonus, and lunar cycle. So many ways to draw cards. Plus your drop return. And Chris was able to find it. Having so many resources left, it felt 3 boss, 3 superiors. Could have just found so many different ways to close out that game. And John just kind of off to a rough start, not having that energy to attack with the Dragapult, as we mentioned, 2 prize. But Chris here mulligans. John, I think, started a Budu again. Great starter, especially going second, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I don't know if we mentioned this already. These 2 players are actually locals to each other, both from the same area. So they play at Cups all the time and now have to play against each other on the biggest stage at one of the biggest tournaments of the year. So there is definitely some player history between these 2. We'll see another mulligan card. So valuable time off the clock in this important match, and John is going to get additional bonuses for his troubles.
Chris here with not as many basics as Gholdengo typically plays, not actually playing that Genesect EX, instead having those Hildas that we saw to get those Gholdengos into play and playing 4 Gholdengo. We saw some people cut to 3 for a while there, which was a little bit suspicious, but now we're back to 4, can find them pretty easily, and Chris finally finds a basic. John getting 2 extra cards, be able to get together a better board with energies next time.
All right, looks like we are starting things off again. Chris will be going first. Budu start for John, a 2nd game in a row as Pokepad immediately gets played. So Chris will be able to get some more Pokemon into play. I believe I see one of the 2 rocks in the hand, so we're going to see even more come down. There's Gimme Ghoul number 2. And yeah, Nest Ball, Fighting Energy, Lunatone even has the Fighting Gong. So another solid start here for Chris on turn number 1.
Chris here playing a bunch of Nest Balls, a bunch of Fighting Gongs, and the Pokepads on top of it. Has so much Pokemon Search, and we see him going first these games. Gholdengo typically wanting to go second, use Arven to set up, but here going first, having all of his basics, both these games, showing the power of this build, playing those extra consistency options instead of the Arven build.
And 3 excellent cards drawn into Gholdengo EX plus Earthen Vessel Boss's Orders. Hasn't even used that Fighting Gong in the hand. Can now use it to just grab even more energies into play, or use Earthen Vessels, even considering just discarding the Fighting Gong because there's just an abundance of energies, but I think I like maybe playing it just to grab some out. We'll see what he decides to do.
Yeah, Chris's hand here is a little awkward. Has the boss that he wants to keep and the Hilda that he wants to keep, because both can help him set up his board. He can either disrupt John's strongest Pokemon or get that 2nd Gholdengo into play. So here, just using the Earthen Vessel, discarding that Fighting Gong, getting the Metal Energy on the Gimme Ghoul like last game, just to make it so that you have the attacks ready to go. And the prizes, nothing too impactful. That 1 Air Balloon and the Baniri. The 2nd basic Metal Energy could be big, but with the Legacy Energy, shouldn't be too impactful. And John here with an Buddy Poffin to start off.
No supporter card, though, so we're just going to see Pokemon get benched and an Itchy Pollen be used. Not really what you want to see. You want to see, especially after those 2 mulligan cards, Iono, Lily's Determination, just some way to draw into more cards, but it's just not present in John's hand currently.
And you see your opponent Vessel away a Fighting Gong, such a strong card. So you know there's some great cards in Chris's hand. This Budu or these Dreepies maybe not surviving the turn. Gets a 3rd Dreepy, though, has a Dracloak and a Pokepad for next turn, but no supporters still. Really rough draws here for John, it feels.
It's just luck of the draw sometimes. It's just how things go. You've got to play to your outs. So still just doing his best to make sure he's not out of the 2nd game. Pokepad used, Dreepy benched. We'll see an Itchy Pollen deal 10 damage to this active. From there now, Chris, with a plethora of supporters in hand, has to decide what he wants to do. Does he want to start to chase these Dreepy down, or does he want to start to just continuously KO Budu?
With John not attaching an energy, though, knocking out this Budu means you might be able to break the item lock. He saw no supporter, no energy, so John would have to promote one of these Dreepies, and if he finds an energy, likely have to retreat it or bench a Latios for you to use the boss on the later turns and take a knockout. And Chris here just slamming the Hilda, really prioritizing getting your board set up, especially against a deck like Dragapult Dusknoir, which tries to take the advantage of the weaknesses in your board. And as you mentioned, John on the back foot, Dragapult always has a win condition with Iono and Countercatcher. And Chris here grabbing the Legacy Energy, just like last game, setting up both the Gholdengos with an energy so they don't get trapped from Countercatcher Iono Jamming Tower.
We'll just draw the 1 card, Legacy Energy, onto the other Gholdengo and make it rain. Gonna take the 1 prize card. All of a sudden, John's gonna need to find some sort of help off these Dracloak's Recon Directives. finds one in hand. I think you're supposed to use this recon directive before you play Pokepad.
I agree. Having 3 Dreepies means you can use 3 recon directives potentially. Finds a Hilda. It's an okay draw. Can get you another Dracloak and maybe a Neo Upper for the future turn, or an Energy to get back into the Budu, but still going to use another recon before that. Really looking for a Lily's Determination or an Iona to reset this hand.
Yeah, and if you use the energy to retreat, then all of a sudden your Neo Upper energy just has so much strain placed on it, and you're not going to be able to use consecutive Phantom Dives if that Dragapult EX does fall.
Especially if you have to use the Hilda to get that energy, then you won't have that easy access that a lot of decks play the Hilda for. Finds a Lilies, though.
It's a big find. I feel like you've got to spin the wheel and just play a little bit more aggressively. I mean, you could realistically chance it or not chance it and play safe, but here we go for John. Big 8 cards is going to have to find an energy card if he realistically wants to stay in this game a lot closer.
Looking for Latios and that energy so he doesn't have to discard it to retreat and can start to establish that board presence that he's been lacking in both these games. Just not finds an energy and the Neo Upper for next turn. So if he doesn't find that Latios, another Dracloak and an Ultra Ball, so has basically every option available to him. Can Ultra Ball get the Latios and retreat the Dreepy into the Budu, attach to one of your Dracloaks, and also evolve that Dreepy into Dracloak after your retreat to get another recon directive for this and next turn.
It's just debating what last card to get rid of, if that Hawlucha or that Dragapult is just a little bit more valuable. And with that Hilda in hand, it might be okay, but it feels like there's not really going to be a great opportunity to use the Hilda. Wonder if that discard could possibly have been a little bit better than the Dragapult EX.
Yeah, with the Neo Upper already in the hand, the big idea of the Hilda is getting that Neo Upper, but John has an energy for this turn and the Neo Upper for next turn, so doesn't need that Hilda. Now may whiff the Dragapult on the following turn by discarding that, or not be able to play a supporter like Iona.
So we'll see the retreat first, then the evolve. One more recon directive being used. It is a Duskull. That's probably as good of a card as it gets, but the Iono being the other card, you want that one too.
Yeah, and here's where discarding that Dragapult kind of gets punished. Could have had the Dragapult ready and the Iona ready, and John here almost took the Iona, but switches last minute to the Duskull, realizing that he may not even have a Dragapult next turn because of keeping that Hilda.
So here it is, Itchy Pollen, 0 damage, another fighting energy found from the top of the deck. Chris is going to have even more draw here. Coin Bonus going to draw 3 cards from the deck and can decide now if he wants to play that boss's orders because he's got that second energy in hand.
Has 2 energies, can either knock out the Duskull or the Dracloak with an energy. We saw Chris knock out a Dusclops last game, but we'll see if he would rather go for the Duskull or the Dracloak, as when it's only a Duskull, it's not as threatening as that Dusclops. So maybe the Dracloak's a little more threatening here.
Yeah, and it would, again, put strain on that Neo Upper energy. If you could just knock out that Dragapult the turn after, it just would be so much stress. And pretty much shutting Fan Dive off for a majority of the rest of the game.
And just going for that Dracloak with the energy, targeting the energy is one of the big stress points of the Dragapult deck, and prepping an energy onto the Soul Rock just for the future to be able to knock out something like a Budu. We saw last game the Gholdengo got knocked out, I believe.
Yep.
And then Chris could have promoted that Soul Rock and just found boss. So kind of leaving those options open, especially if John chooses to use the Curse Blast, putting Chris on odd prizes.
Here we go. Big recon directive. There's really not a lot going on in this hand at all. Do we see an Iono? No Iono at
just
all.
Just a Lilies.
Can find Dragapult EX with that Hilda, but there's just a large hand that has been accrued for Chris over the previous turns.
Yeah, Chris here with such a strong board and likely not being item locked. Maybe John just Itchy Pawns another turn, but then Chris goes to 3 prizes, and Curse Blast would put Chris just 1 Dragapult EX or Latios EX knockout away from winning the game. Attaching this Neo Upper energy kind of signifies that John is going to be trying to attack this turn, or at least evolve into Dragapult, but goes for that Lily's Determination, not guaranteeing the Dragapult attack quite yet.
Will have to be 8 cards drawn thanks to that extra 2 for John, yet to have taken a prize card so far. Can he find Dragapult EX? Is there a counter catcher to maybe try and play around something? Here we go. 4, 5. Does find Ultra Ball and counter catcher, so a little bit more options at his disposal now. Does also have 2 Ultra Ball in hand, so could even grab Dusclops if he so chooses to.
Could knock out this active Gholdengo, but then you're giving Chris Pheasantipity for the rest of the game, most likely, assuming you're trying to take as many knockouts as possible. And that's just so much extra draw. Having this Gholdengo active is 2 cards drawn, but having that Pheasantipity in play after a knockout is 3 cards drawn. So a little bit extra card advantage. We'll see what John opts to do. tying up the Pheasantipity to maybe see some extra cards.
Just a tough spot in both Game 1 and Game 2. These early opportunities to use Phantom Dive feel like they've just not been capitalized on, just at the disposal of poor draws and just missed pieces.
Yeah, John last turn made that big decision to discard that Dragapult EX and then not take that Iono off the Recon Directive. Could have been a completely different turn if he had kept that Dragapult and then taken that Iono and disrupted Chris's turn. It feels like with so many cards in hand and such a strong board that Chris is going to be able to find this knockout almost no matter what.
Yeah, and once again, with the Neo Upper Energy already being expanded and with there being no way to accelerate energy into the board, no Crispin, no Sparkling Crystal, of course, it just feels like one Phantom Dive is probably not going to do the trick. We'll see a potential stall play here. The Lunatone brought up into the active spot. John now debating whether or not he wants to shut off this Recon Directive to protect Dracloak. And with there being, I guess, a couple of Iono in hand, it's probably okay to do that. And he does do that, in fact, evolving up Itchy Pollen for 20 damage, putting pressure on Chris to find an energy card to move out of the active, and finds Picnic Basket. That's a tech card we haven't talked about yet in this matchup.
Yeah, it could come up a lot with Dragapult spreading a lot of damage, but can't be used this turn due to that Itchy Pollen. One of the weaknesses of Picnic Basket is all the decks that spread damage play Budu and can shut it off when they want, but Dragapult sometimes is attacking with Phantom Dive, and you can disrupt all their math. Chris here using Hilda, likely getting an energy to retreat that Lunatone, and then use Cosmic Beam on Solrock to knock out this Budu. Only has that one energy from the Hilda, no more to use Make It Rain, and really just trying to conserve resources at this point and make it so that if John does finally get to Iono and Phantom Dive, Chris is able to respond with a knockout.
Yeah, and puts pressure on that Dusclops from ever being used, because being at 2 prizes is just an absolute nightmare situation for Dragapult EX. So it looks like we're leaning a little bit more into Dragapult itself to close the game out, even considering benching Baniri in this spot as an efficient attacker.
Yeah, could knock out that Latios at any point, doing 230 damage. Little awkward to move into sometimes with only one air balloon. Could definitely be an option, and yeah, benches that Baniri. Really threatening the Latios, just dissuading John from ever evolving this Duskull, as the Dusclops or Dusknoir probably won't be getting used, and if Chris ever goes to 1 prize, it could be bossed up and stalled for a couple turns while he tries to find the energies to win the game.
Now the debate for John is there ever a world where you want to use Dusclops here, or are you content just going in with double Dragapult EX to try and win the game?
Using Dusclops is so scary here. You can knock out that Gholdengo EX and put Chris to 1 less card off Iono, but that's just 1 knockout away. And John isn't even threatening game on the next turn, so Chris has multiple turns to find that 2 prize KO to win.
So 1 onto the Baniri. Thinking about where to put the second damage counter.
Yeah, having 2 on a Gholdengo means it is in range of being knocked out by a Blood Moon or Saluna, but at the same time, Chris at 3 prizes means John can't use Blood Moon this turn unless he uses that Curse Blast, which we keep saying just seems a little too weak and accelerates the game for Chris a little too much.
So abstaining from using that, we'll see Iono shuffling both hands to the bottom of the deck, drawing 6 prize cards for John. 6 cards, excuse me, and then 3 cards for Chris. Haven't talked about Monkey Dory yet. It is on the list, hasn't come up quite yet. Does find another Duskull. Now there is the potential, if this Dragapult doesn't get knocked out, for you to use double Cursed Blast to apply a lot of pressure on the following turn. Looks like considering taking this Night Stretcher, it would guarantee an attachment onto Dracloak, which is the one piece still missing.
John here no energy in hand. Just trying to have back-to-back Phantom Dives. One way he can kind of stay in this game is using attack, 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 and hoping that Chris whiffs a turn. So, yep, just going into that Phantom Dive, we'll see where he places damage. Did not find a counter catcher to put damage onto a Dengo, but will still knock out the Solrock, maybe knock out that Baniri, putting John to 4 prizes. Legacy energy on that Gholdengo starting to show that it could end up making this game really awkward for John. He can't go knock out Gholdengo, because one of them has the legacy energy. He'd have to weave in some Phantom Dive damage, but that, as we mentioned, can get griefed by that Picnic Basket.
So here we go, Phantom Dive, KO. Solrock and Baniri both fall. Can Chris put together a KO here? Does find the Artisan off the top, and a Lily's Determination, so can actually play this Lily first and try and draw into as many cards as possible, and also still has that Solrock in the deck.
Yeah, showing the power of that Lily's Determination. Gholdengos typically don't play it, but here off these Ionos to low cards, you can just reset your hand to 6, raise your odds of finding those energies, superior energy retrievals. Yeah, it looks like 6 energies in the discard, so looking for double superior energy retrieval this turn most likely.
Plus an attachment as well.
Yeah.
Or plus an energy from hand as well. Hasn't played any superior energy retrievals yet, none prized.
And there's 2 off the first 3 cards and a vessel.
Earthen vessel. We've
Hasn't
seen
even used
nothing
coin bonuses
yet.
and a Pheasantipity if he wants to see 3 more cards and just try to prepare his board if John is able to get that knockout on the Gholdengo. But then you have a 2-prizer in play without the legacy energy, so John could go knockout potentially. That could be a way to close out the game. And
just
more
energy cards.
Could even use Lunar Cycle because there's 6 fighting energies in discard, so with 2 superiors, you want to maximize your value off the superiors. Could discard a fighting off the first one and then use Lunar Cycle and then get 4 off of both with no energies in discard. Really just a lot of efficiencies that can be done with the Gholdengo deck, especially with sequencing and your discards.
So Chris finding an abundance of energy here in game number 2. Dragapult EX primed to fall thanks to that Make It Rain attack on Gholdengo. Just going to use a potential Lunar Cycle here. I think it's just debating. Looks like Lopunny will be the one that gets discarded.
Yeah, grabbing all these energies out of the deck into the hand means if he has any extra, they could get sent to the bottom with an Iono, which is a little awkward.
Yeah, I think the only consideration to be careful about at this point is the fact that Itchy Pollen could shut you out of the game if you're unable to find that air balloon that is prized still. We'll see flip the script to draw 3 cards. It's just kind of a bunch of fodder, it seems.
Chris here, 4 energies in hand.
Looks like with potential Lunar Cycle is considering it. You can also use a superior energy retrieval to discard an energy and then bring that energy back again.
Yeah, it depends if he just wants to thin those cards out of the deck, because something like the Fighting On could have been played to thin anyway. So maybe he's not planning on using that second superior this turn. Attaching to the Soul Rock, so Professor Turo scenario would prevent that Itchy Pollen. Just double checking the energies, making sure you have enough.
Yeah.
I've seen time and time again, people are 1 energy short, and you don't want to do that, especially when you're up a game, in a super advantageous position in game 2 of your win it in to top cut at the Orlando Regional Championship.
And importantly, finds that air balloon, right? That was a scary option. If there was no air balloon, I believe there's no energy cards left in the deck. Just all of them put into play outside of that superior energy retrieval. So needed to find that card. We'll keep note of that air balloon that is now in the deck as John is on the back foot. Facing down Chris is just 1 prize card remaining. Whether it's a huge KO, I think we're just thinking about what's happening here.
Just making sure everything is
maybe something correct with the stream audio, unfortunately, something along those lines. I believe everything was done left. We'll double check and make sure everything is looking good.
Yeah, it seemed like everything was done correctly.
I did hear a loud noise in the crowd for what it's worth, so it could have been something along that. It looks like we're just getting a confirmation about Legacy Energy. Crowd, I hear you. Don't worry, guys. Your support is noted. Of course, we've got people watching out in the hall, not just at home. It seems that we are all good with confirmations on everything that's happening.
Yeah, and
so here's the energy, and is there a Dragapult EX? It looks like there's an Iono, but no Dragapult EX just yet. I think it's going to have to be an Iono to 1 and pray, something that we've said time and time again, and may be coming to an end at this weekend. This is Iono's last stand.
Iono, one of the most powerful supporters in the format. Early game consistency, late game disruption. We'll see if Iono is a lie. Finds a Pheasantipity, 3 more cards for John, and the Recon Directive. Really looking for a Dragapult EX. Finds the Dragapult.
Finds it. That's
and a Countercatcher.
Countercatcher as well.
Could Countercatcher that Pheasantipity. Try to stall the Pheasantipity active. 200 on the Pheasantipity. 6 onto that Gholdengo. Then next turn, boss that Gholdengo on the bench and knock out both the Gholdengo and Pheasantipity to take his last 4 prize cards.
Okay, so there is a route to win this game in 2 turns.
All kind of goes down to Chris benching that Pheasantipity when he already had knockout.
Yeah.
Could have completely prevented that line from happening.
Big time find here for John. We'll see the retreat into Dragapult EX. And I assume that Countercatcher will get played. It's just checking through the discards to make sure there's enough resources down. Yeah, looks here. 3, 6, 7 fighting energy, it seems. Plus the metal energy.
8 energy in discard, 3 in play. Chris still has 1 energy left. 1 more fighting energy, playing 12 total.
Is there 8 in the discard or 7 in the discard pile? If there's 8, then that's actually all of them, because there's energy on the Lunatone right there.
Yeah, 12 energy's gone. but can't Itchy Pollen because there is that energy on the Soul Rock.
Yeah, and there hasn't been an air balloon played yet, so here we go. This is a big-time play. John has potentially found a way back into this game after the perfect Iono found Dragapult EX and the counter catcher.
And John already has the boss's orders for next turn, so this is Chris's last turn if John puts the energies, or puts the damage onto the Gholdengo and can't find something to heal like that picnic basket or a Professor Turo scenario.
Gholdengo going to 6. 8 damage counters on it. What can Chris find? It is a superior energy retrieval. Okay, so can use this first card to draw 1.
Yeah, superior.
It is a fighting gong. There is no energy left in the deck, so can start things off with superior energy retrieval and actually retreat out to get this coin bonus, or even just use Lunar Cycle to start things off.
Probably going to start with the Lunar Cycle because if you find Boss, you can attach your 2 to the Pheasantipity, boss up a Duskull or Dreepy, and use Soul Rock to win the game there.
All right, here we go. Big 3 cards. Do we see Boss's orders? 1, 2, 3.
No boss, but a superior energy retrieval.
Superior. Is that enough here?
I think it's 1 energy short right now. May need to coin bonus into another superior energy retrieval.
Can thin out a Gimmighoul from the deck with Pokepad.
Looking to attack.
He's going to actually attach retreat into this Gholdengo first.
Needs to find Night Stretcher or superior energy retrieval, I believe, with all those energies in the discard pile, hand or in play.
Considering using this first? Just thinking about thinning out the deck or not. Is there a Pokemon in the deck to be thinned with this Pokepad? There is a Gimmighoul.
And a superior at the bottom of the deck. But it looked like there was a boss at the top of the deck because Chris can still find the boss's orders and just make it rain to knock out any of these frail Pokemon. So many outs for Chris here. And also, Professor Turo scenario would stop John from winning the game.
True. It would pick up that Pheasantipity, healing essentially all of the damage from John's last turn. So here we go. Big 2 cards from coin bonus. Boss's orders, energy cards, so many cards. Turo.
No game this turn.
Does find the Turo, which can pick up Pheasantipity EX. So we're going to keep things going, it seems. And now the question for Chris is, do you just play this superior to bring energies back? Do you hold it in hand? It's probably better to hold it because you've got so many now.
Yeah, you have a couple energies from that first superior, but considering just discarding those cards from the deck, I think John is down 3 Ionos now, so may not even be able to find an Iono to disrupt. Benching another Gimmighoul to threaten another source of draw, but John here is a little bit happy to not see Chris win the game, but also seeing that Turo means that John isn't going to be able to win the game on this coming turn.
I think he's just really debating what the play is. Yeah. Hasn't shown Monkey Dory yet. That is a potential scare factor. It's going to be the superior energy retrieval, discarding those 2 cards from the hand.
I could maybe just do 250 to this Dragapult, setting it up for a Cosmic Beam because John does have a full bench and can't bench that Monkey Dory.
That's true. There's no Professor Turo in this deck. No way to bring up any Pokemon. So here it goes. Make it rain.
Damage.
And John is bench locked in this spot. So as things stand right now, can't announce Phantom Dive again because then a single energy card means Soul Rock will actually take the game.
Yeah, and John should know that Chris has an energy in hand from using those 2 superior energy retrievals, retreating 1, discarding 5, and using Lunar Cycle. That's only 7 of them. There's still 1 left in the hand. So if he finds an Iono though, so has the disruption to put Chris back down to 1 card. Still a lot of draw. Really awkward spot for John. Chris here finding a way to try to maximize his odds of winning.
Time is winding down. We're at just over 5 minutes remaining in this round. What can John do? It may have to be an Iono and pray for a second time. Chris didn't find the way to win, but he also found the way to avoid defeat.
Yeah, it almost worked last time. Not quite enough for John to win last turn. We'll see if this Iono is enough. Chris was able to put so much pressure onto John's board. John here shaking his head, just playing the Iono to 1. Chris needs so little to win, but at the same time, there is only that 1 energy. 2 superiors down already.
Let's find another counter catcher. Is there a way to get fancy with that card?
I don't know what you bring up. Everything is, you can bring up the Gimmighoul, which needs to retreat, but then you're not attacking this turn. That seems like, it feels like you need to attack this turn. Get 200 on this Gholdengo, and then boss's orders to bench Gholdengo next turn, and knocking out the legacy energy with Phantom Dive damage would get around that -1 prize effect.
Looks like it may be Iono and pray time here for John. He's just really considering if it's worth playing something else here, considering the Ultra Ball as well.
Maybe
will be played.
thinning the deck, prepping to maybe try to find a boss's orders on the following turn.
Find the Blood Moon, but that's not going to do anything. There's no way to move any of these Pokemon off the board.
John's board is locked for the rest of the game. If anything gets knocked out, he loses. If he uses Curse Blast, he loses. So just thinning these Pokemon out. Has a counter catcher. May just save it for next turn to be the game-winning piece. Now just a Phantom Dive. We'll see if Chris can find an energy to win the game.
Where does he want to put the 6 damage counters?
May just try to set it up so he can knock out 2 1-prizers. Also, if Chris finds another Professor Turo scenario.
Could play around the picnic basket, and it looks like that is going to be the option here. I couldn't quite see what that one card is for Chris.
Now, maybe he just has the game in hand. Maybe he needs to rely on these coin bonuses to find the energy.
It's coming down to the wire, ladies and gentlemen. And shows the Night Stretcher. That's going to guarantee the energy to retreat Gholdengo EX. And wow, Chris Franco takes it 2-0 and is advancing into the top cut.
Really interesting Gholdengo build with that legacy energy, kind of making John's board and game plan in that second game really awkward. And John just having really rough draws there, meaning that Chris taking those aggressive KOs turn after turn, John was unable to put together anything strong throughout the game.
Gholdengo EX may be off broad watch, ladies and gentlemen. We're still going to have to keep a close eye. There's still plenty more Pokemon to play, but Chris Franco may be the coin bonus's strongest soldier.
I think Josh Frink, one of the newest coin bonus